Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Life Chronicles and Deep Dives podcast. I'm here with Coach Cornelia, all the way in Romania.
Hello, everybody.
And my name is Coach Mika Ranjit. I'm here in the United States, Washington to be exact, where it is very hot. But today, you wouldn't think it'd be hot in Washington because the green and the blue, but it's hot. Anyway, today we have a very important topic. Cornelia is going to be talking about teenagers. I have just a couple of thoughts on them, but this is Cornelia's main topic. So, Coach Cornelia, take it away.
Why I wanted to talk about teenagers because I just ended one of my sessions with them. You know, I have some classes with them for 2 or 3 months, depending on what they choose. And it struck me this time because I noticed one main problem for all of them, and this is lack of parenting or lack of parenting regarding the emotional side. You know, like the parents are not emotionally invested in their kids anymore. And I wanted to talk about it and to address it and see why is this happening, because I have some thoughts about it, but I don't want to judge anyone. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm gonna do it anyway. So, so what they are feeling, most of them are feeling that the parents don't love them. That's the main thing, and it's worrying for me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think they feel that way? Like, I mean, what is bringing upon these feelings?
I think they don't have a connection with their parents. That's how I feel. I mean, the parents are trying to do things for their kids, but not investing emotions in it, right? I mean, for example, I had one of the kids. He's waking up very early in the morning, going to school, and he has so many extracurriculars or whatever it's called. Um, he's only going back home at 8 in the evening. So the parents are investing money in him. They're paying for what the kid is doing after school, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't spend time with the kid. They don't ask him, how are you feeling today? How was school, or these kind of things, right? He doesn't feel that the parents love him. He just feels that they're paying money for him to stay away from the house. That's the main idea he has about it. That's just a small example. This special kid, and he's coming back home. Hello, hello, and that's all. The parents are on the phones. They're busy or having businesses, or they have guests, and the kid is just, he doesn't belong to anyone.
Mm-hmm. You're
That's
just
what
kind of like
makes.
floating.
Yeah, it's worrying.
So I think I've kind of figured out, right? And I actually watched a video about this the other day, but we've actually talked about part of this happening, right? So, and everybody knows I'm going to go down the government, slammer. But here's the deal: is as we've grown older, right, as a society, as humans, the government's given us more things to distract us, right? Whether we're paying taxes, going to work, right? Your kids got to be in extracurriculars. Like before, it was to benefit the kids. Now it's so that way the kids are tired and don't bother parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that we have these after school programs, these other things, right? People, parents do have to have their own lives, but they're also should be investing in the children. However, due to the high amount of income that is required to live now,
Mm-hmm.
um, parents feel like they don't have time to do all of these things, but also they are distracted. So because they're distracted by all of these games, these whether it's draft picks, whether they're watching TV, or whether they're having guests, whether they're at work, more than likely they're working more than one job to make ends meet. Uh, when they're done with that 8 hours of work, rather than a couple hours of work preparing food, getting ready, and then spending time with their children, they're tired at the end of the day, so they don't have that time. that allows the government to kind of like creep in and, take
Mm.
over the kid's life. If the parent isn't involved in the kid's life, the government will be involved in the kid's life. Anyway, that's all I wanted to throw out with that, because I kind of I've been watching it happen in another area. But teenagers, they need their parents. They need that guidance. They need that emotional support. And a lot of times I think parents see teenagers as autonomous, as they're, like they kind of got their own thing. We've established these rules, but we want the teenagers to follow the rules. We don't need to participate in the teenager's life as much anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where you're seeing this want, this need.
Yeah, I agree with what you've said, but I also want to say that most of the parents, yes, some of them need two jobs to make things not a great lifestyle, just normal lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But many of the parents are lazy, and in my sessions I'm talking to the parents as well, and many of them admit it. It's more comfortable to stay on the phone or talk to a friend or watch a movie instead of talking to your kid, because as a teenager you bring a lot of emotions, a lot of frustration, a lot of depression. You have so many problems, you have hormones, you have all this area, and the parent doesn't really want to confront with it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the parents are becoming lazier than before. I'm not saying that, for example, my parents, they never talked to me about my problems as a teenager, but I had friends, right? I could talk to my friends. This time the kids don't know how to make friends anymore because of the social media. They lack so much social skills.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have social skills like before. So they don't have good friends to talk about what they go through. They don't have the parents to talk about it, and then they just feel they're alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to address this laziness the parents have. And I know many parents are tired. Life seems like a little bit more complicated now, but we can make a choice every moment, right? It's a life. The life is made of choices, and no matter what the government does or whatever it happens, we can choose to spend more time with our kids.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My daughter, she's not a teenager yet. She was out here recently
Almost.
for a visit, and she wants to hold my hand all the time. And
Mm,
I'm typically involved in, like, like what's happening across the globe. I'm watching news.
mm-hmm.
I'm like monitoring situations to see how things are going, working out. I've got my own life. But while she was here, I put my phone down for quite a bit, right? More than usual. I put my phone down. I would make it a point to like hold her hand, make that emotional, physical connection with her, talk to her about things as best I could, take her to sightsee and do things, right? She's out here on vacation. We only get to see each other once a year. Um,
Mm,
but I did spend a lot of time focused on her, talking to her, playing with her, figuring out like, how her life's going, what she's got going. She's doing great. Um, but you're right. Parents have removed themselves from their children's lives. Yes, there are the distractions, but you're right. There are the lazy parents that would rather do other things than spend time with their kids. And so, like, when you look at those parents, especially ones that have access to their kids on a daily basis, if they are passing off their kids' emotional needs to somebody else,
mm-hmm.
like a surrogate, right?
Yeah,
Like coaching is different, right? You're helping the kid move forward. You're not necessarily a therapist because you're not working in the past. You're working with the kid moving forward.
sure. Yeah.
What we're looking at is the kid is coming to you because they don't have a parent, but also in the school system, there are people that will take advantage of that surrogacy that the parents are subverting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are not, like, let's say not you specifically, the parent isn't teaching the kid, somebody else is teaching the kid how to emotionally handle themselves, how to do this, how to do that. Across the United States, and here's a controversial topic, across the United States, there's a big talk about parents and teachers' rights in terms of
Mhm.
what happens with the parents' kids, right? In schools, right? Certain states have laws that prevent teachers from talking to parents about children that want to change their gender identity or actual physical bodies. So
That's insane. I mean, I cannot imagine this in Europe, but I mean, hopefully it won't happen. It's insane.
yeah, I mean,
It's
just
insane.
looking at how that has moved, right? So, like, let's say if you are not teaching your children, spending time with your kids, but teaching them your ideals, somebody else is,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Right? It could be a pedophile, it could be
Mhm.
somebody that is encouraging trans behavior, right? Whether your kid is questioning or whether they're, just like trying to a teenager is trying to figure out their identity. They don't need
Mhm.
somebody else to tell them their identity or force,
Yeah.
them to follow a almost irreversible path of change. So for this to happen, the parents really need to step up.
Mhm.
It's really scary.
I mean, it's gonna sound weird, but not weird. I mean, it's gonna sound bad, but the parents don't know their kids. So when I'm working with them together wait, I'm only doing one session together, the kid and the parent. Uh, the parents don't know almost anything about their kids. They don't know what music they like, what kind of clothes they like, what I don't know what color. They don't know what color their kids like. Can you
Mhm.
imagine it? I mean, it's crazy. The kid is spending a lot of time in school, right? In school, a lot of things happen. Like they're being bullied or they're being judged by the teachers, not necessarily by the kids. They most of them are being judged by their teachers, which is again worrying.
Mhm.
So they don't feel accepted. They have a lot of feelings. They're going home. They don't have anyone to speak about these feelings, about what's going on in school. So it's the school doesn't help them. The parents don't come in and help them. So what should, of course, I am sure you've seen the rate of depression in teenagers now. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. Increase
Yeah,
in rate of depression, mental health issues,
yeah.
identity
Mm,
crisis issues. Like, I mean, it's increased astronomically, to the point where people are even bandwagoning mental health issues to feel a part of a group. I mean,
yeah,
we've seen
yeah,
that with, you know what I mean, with like people on TikTok
mhm,
are basically bandwagoning
yeah.
mental health issues or something in order to feel a part of a group because they're not a part of an actual group in
Mm-hmm.
person. You're right. You remember you just said something about how kids aren't really talking to each other because social media is involved in their lives, whether they're getting it through like a specific app, whether they're interacting with dating apps, whether they're interacting through just pictures. They're not
Mm-hmm.
actually interacting with humans, so their human interaction skills are declining at the same time, thus
They can't
increasing their
even,
mental health and depression.
yeah, they cannot even read the room, that expression, and they just lack this ability. And um, it, when you cannot read the room, you cannot be a part of the group, right? You cannot
Mhm.
understand what the others are feeling. Or I know there are so many movies right now about understanding uh, how the other ones are feeling, what feelings they have, how they feel about something. I don't know, but somehow it's just a movie. They don't experience it in the real life. You're
Yeah.
watching someone else's life, and they seem to have a great life. They don't really. So they have a normal life. But the teenager is very impressionable.
Hmm.
The teenager is seeing that and they want the same, right? So it's
Absolutely.
unrealistic. They live in an unrealistic life right now. Whether when we are kids, we were going out on the streets, right? We talked about it. Bicycles, whatever, all kinds of games. You could
Hmm.
see directly how someone is feeling, and you could feel their pain if they were your good friends. Now that they don't have good friends, they cannot express their empathy, right? So
Hmm.
it's such a how do because like one's come from the other. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a train,
Hmm.
something start just a train of things that are happening now, and it's not a good direction for the teenagers. And the main thing is the parents, like you said before, the parents should start getting involved in their kids' life.
Hmm. Yeah. Social media is damaging to
Mm-hmm.
developing minds, right? Can I say that somebody should be creating laws to limit social media? No. I mean, that's personally not me. But a parent could essentially, for an effective strategy for like a healthy, growing mind, but pre-teenager, limit social media use, right?
Yeah, sure.
Explain that this lifestyle, influencer being one of the biggest sought after jobs now, uh,
Mm-hmm.
is not actually a job. I mean, we're talking about we need to carry forward the future of the society, right? We need people to go to work, get jobs, build things, medical research, all of these things, but they're more interested in the influence, right? So the influencer, they're more interested in that fantasy lifestyle. Sure, they'll make some
Yeah.
money, some of them will make lots of money. OnlyFans makes lots of people lots of dollars. However,
Mm-hmm.
what are they actually contributing? And then when they're done with that, they've made millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, but then they're still seeking that
Yeah.
fulfillment,
They're
right?
not
They don't
fulfilled.
have that
Yeah.
actual fulfillment in their
Mhm.
life.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you have the same opinion. When I'm saying this, I everyone is looking at me like I'm crazy when I'm saying you have to prepare your kid for the society. We
Hmm.
have to build this society, and it's like an these days we only want rights. We don't have obligations anymore, and that's something that bothers me. We have the obligation to raise our kids to be good members of society,
Hmm.
good plumbers, good mechanics, good doctors, whatever.
Hmm.
They have to be good for society. When I'm saying this kind of thing, the parents are not even thinking about it. They don't feel that they have any responsibility in this area. I mean, it's I just made the kid, and it's the kid's choice. It's not the kid's choice. It's of course it's the kid's choice in the end, but
Hmm.
it's up to us to give them good principles, good ideas about life.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain parts of society. There's two main factions of society, right? One of them wants people to live their life ruled by feelings and insecurity,
Mm.
like victimhood. Another part of
Mm-hmm.
society wants people to live through empowerment, protection, logic, reason, right?
Yeah.
Both are clashing constantly. I think that the ones that want to have society ruled by feelings, and victimhood, um, and then feeding into that mentality,
Mm-hmm.
create the environment that we are in today. Jobs declining, society birth rates declining, right? Um, People are not working jobs. They're going to influencer, do this and do that, right? They're not actually participating in society. And sure, that's their choice. But in order to facilitate growth of a community, we need to have some reason, we need to have some logic. We can't constantly be governed by our feelings. And that
Mm.
is what a certain type of society wants to have happen, is people governed by their feelings. Another type of society wants people governed by logic and reason. I'm more with the logic and reason people because the feelings, when you allow yourself to be controlled by feelings, you allow other people to control you. And that's across the board. If you look in abuse circles, narcissistic abuse circles, if you look at
Mhm.
relationship circles, anybody that can get you angry has the control. Anybody that
Sure.
can get you to believe that you're a victim has
Mm-hmm.
control, because now they're the savior, right? Teenagers are growing up in a society where they're already being told that they are the victim, that their feelings um, are what they need to like govern themselves with, rather than logic and reason. It's hard to watch that because it's causing a decline of society. There is an elite ruling class that is literally creating victims.
Yeah.
They're excelling themselves because they're not victims. They're not victimizing themselves and saying they're this and they're that. They're just telling their constituents that they're this and they're that. So to see that happen, it's just it's saddening, because literally everybody will do everything they can to gain power, keep power towards pleasure, away from pain, keep it
Mm-hmm.
keeping that power.
Yeah. I wanted to say that I don't have in my course, I don't have any feelings involved. Like we learn a lot of skills, financial communication, whatever, never talking about feelings. And I had some of the teenagers asking me why I'm not talking about feelings, because the feelings are subjective. And if you, it's not that I'm not validating someone's feelings, but what you feel about the thing is something. It's different of how I feel about it, or how you feel about it. So it's everything is so relative again. So
Hmm.
there's no point in talking about it. You can talk about feelings when you feel depressed, but that's therapy, is not coaching.
Hmm.
But in my class, we are not talking about feelings at all. We are talking about how can we improve, how can we be good for society, how can we be on our feet.
Hmm.
That's very important for teenagers to become independent and to feel that they can deal with themselves in this crazy world we live in, because we live in a crazy world. We don't have the society pillars like before. We don't have examples like before. We don't have good role models anymore. Not that many anyway. So I feel that this logical part of things, this realistic part of things, is much more important for them than talking about feelings all day long. It doesn't matter. You can feel about something today, you can feel something, and then tomorrow you can change that feeling, but your
Hmm.
skills remain, and you're gonna be a good grown up.
Hmm.
That's how I feel about
Functional,
it.
like within
Oh, yeah.
society.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so when we're going to move away from the feelings here a little bit, as teenagers get, as they start to develop, they need to figure out what they're going to do for the future. So let's talk
Mhm.
about college and like how, like high
Yeah.
school, or like I don't know what they call it in Europe, before they go to like university,
High school.
high school. Okay, so
Yeah.
during that time, those are very formative years where a
Hmm.
teenager is going to be developing, learning. I mean, not only their identity, but also like what they want to do potentially. I mean, usually in college, I think the average is 2 to 3 switches
Hmm.
of majors. But there's a lot of pressure on teenagers to
Yeah.
succeed in college, create the
Mhm.
goals that they may or may not want for the future. We've created a society, and I remember when I was in high school, everybody wanted to go to college. College was like the thing, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I don't necessarily agree with that college is always the thing, right? So higher education, sure. I mean, you're getting a formal education. Are you sure you're getting a formal education? You could be getting an indoctrination,
Mm.
right? So that feelings, that victimize, that, you know, teachers aren't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily just teaching anymore. They're passing off their belief system onto
Yeah.
the kids nowadays,
They're
right?
brainwashing many times. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially indoctrination and brainwashing, right? So the pressure to go to college to me, I looked at it and I was like, okay, yes, I would like these degrees and maybe I'll work towards them in the future. Case in point, I don't have any college currently. I joined the military and then I joined like a trade after that, and I make plenty of money. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think that academic pressure for teens to succeed in college is 100% accurate. People can go to trades and make millions of dollars. People can go to, um, culinary school and be creative, right? I mean,
Yeah.
these things happen, but the pressure to go to school is great. However, the financial burden to go to school for teenagers is also great. Now, let me ask you this: why is the pressure to go to school so great? To get a degree so you can have a job, right? But what do you get when you go through college? If you are going to a college that is going to brainwash and indoctrinate you into this victimized, this feelings beliefhood, when you get out into the real world, they've got another pawn that they can use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was I was listening to you and I was thinking that the main word for the teenagers today, what we should do for them, is just one thing: acceptance. You're talking about them, they being pressured to go to higher education. That's true. All of the parents want their kids to be doctors, lawyers, whatever. No one wants to be a plumber anymore, or a mechanic, or whatever, carpenter, or whatever. And I remember seeing a guy, I think he's 30 years old, and he's very passionate about Middle Asia. He's always going there. He's coming back in England. He's working any job. He just doesn't care about it. He's
Mhm.
doing his painting houses, his it just cleaning, I don't know, anything he can. He gets the money and goes and fulfills his passions, and he's happy,
That's great.
isn't it? That's and I think that guy is might be or should be a role model for the teenagers. Follow your dreams.
Mhm.
Uh, try to be happy. Don't try to overstimulate yourself, because for some colleges too much. I mean, some not everyone is fit for college, right? And this pressure can take you into a very unhappy place.
Mhm.
While if you understand that what life is about, you have so many options. Like this guy, work anything. At the end of the day, there's still money. He's still making a lot of money. He's getting those money. He's fulfilling his dreams, and I think it's great. And I'm always talking about him with my teenagers.
I mean, I'm working towards my dream. I didn't go to college. I'm a mechanic. I make okay money, and I have a dream to travel the world, right? Before
Mhm.
I can retire. Um, so the idea is just kind of like get out and experience things, new things, right? Society is geared towards people going to work all your life. You work until you're 65, and then you can retire and travel and see everything. But by that time, you've wasted most of your life paying
Yeah.
taxes. You're a battery to pay taxes, right? So
Mhm.
teenagers are pressured into this thing. Now, another thing is there's a lot of degrees in college that are worthless. I've seen
Mm,
countless
sure.
videos on social media where kids go to college, they get like one to up to 4 degrees, then they go to apply for a job. I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. They didn't hire me, right?
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
another factor that goes into jobs hiring people now, but and it's called DEI, whether they're being diverse, equitable, and inclusive, which I don't necessarily
Mhm.
agree with. I think we should be hiring people on merit, not on the color
Yeah.
of their skin or whether they're female or trans or whatever. So
We have a very good example with what happens when you hire people like this Kamala Harris. So you know how I feel about her. So it's
right.
I mean I'm sure that there is someone else there out there who might be much better than she is, and at the same time fulfilling the same ideas of inclusion and everything else.
Going to a job, having all these degrees, and then not getting it, that's insane to me. You spend all this money, you're in this amount of debt, and you've got 4 degrees that you can't use, and now you're on the social media crying about it. I mean, but there were pathways, right? The degrees that the individual got necessarily didn't jive with society. They followed that path to education probably because they were being guided along that path to education.
Yeah.
That doesn't, it's kind of like a dead end. It doesn't really lead to anywhere out in society. Sure, you've got all these degrees. Maybe you can write a book, you could start a YouTube channel, create a social media following. You could be an influencer with that. But getting a job with some of those degrees, highly unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, the school and the parents are not teaching the kids to think by themselves. And in my sessions, you can see that they already have a pattern. The mind is going on a pattern, 9 to 5, college, and so on. So that's not very many options, right? It's what their parents know to do, what this society wants from us, to be slaves from 9 to 5, going to job, being very tired after, don't
I
think
mean,
too
most people
much.
are working multiple jobs, so it's not even just like that 7 to 3:30. It's that 9 to 5. It's plus more, and then you ain't got no time with your kids. Sorry, so you don't have any time with your kids.
Yeah, with your kids or for yourself, because these kids are gonna be the same like their parents are, or the society is in general, and they're not gonna have time to fulfill their dreams, and they're gonna wake up when they're 50 years old, and they're gonna wonder what happened with me.
Absolutely.
I mean, their lives are much more complicated than ours when we were teenagers. Much more complicated. Everything is different. They are almost the first generation with social media, growing up with social media. If you think about the scientific part of the situation, is the brain is not developed as it should be, because the brain, so they are subjected with a lot of information all the time. School gives them information, social media, TV, and so on. Everything is information. Their mind doesn't have time to relax, get bored. That's very important, to get bored, right? So they are always getting information, but it's an information that doesn't help them in any way. It's just this need of the brain to see one movie, one short after the other. So they don't have the patience to sometimes, not all the time, I'm giving them some texts to read. They don't have the patience to do it. They just they are not going deeper in the text. They're just reading it very, very fast. They don't have the patience to take the message and think about it, and they don't have this rest that we used to have. I mean, when we were kids, we were going out and we were not thinking about anything, right? We're just playing, we're just being in the moment. They're not like this.
I mean, there's some social media platforms or editing styles, like, so like we're doing a long form podcast here, but TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, they all have like the little short versions of videos, right? Now, inside those short versions of videos, they've also got the editing capability to chop everything to like 4 to 7 seconds. If you do that, the brain is constantly getting hit with a new thing, right? So some people will edit their videos to where they'll be like blah 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 blah, blah cut, blah 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 blah, blah cut, right? So they're talking, right, and then cutting, talking, cutting, talking, cutting, just to reset that attention span
Yeah, exactly.
for these, right? And that is, and I've noticed it at my age. I'm 36. I've noticed that that's why they're doing this editing style. But imagine that
Mm-hmm.
in a teenager or a formative brain, constantly needing that new stimulus. Now you go out in society, you're going to constantly need the new stimulus, whether it's, but you're not really interacting with people, you're interacting with digital people per se,
Mm-hmm.
or you need the next fix, right? So you may see an increase in uh, chemical dependence, right? Drug experimentation, sexual experimentation, right? Because you constantly need that new fix, right?
Yeah.
It just it's a big danger to formative brains.
And it is one of the hardest things to work with them is goal setting, because they are always they always want very fast goals, right? So they want it to happen very fast. They are not willing to work on it, to build the dream, right? They're not willing to take those small steps, build something, put a brick today, another one tomorrow. They don't have this patience anymore. They just want everything really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another problem, because you will never be happy in life trying to fulfill these kind of goals, the fast ones, and so many. I mean, some people are only having one goal in their lives, in their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard for them to adjust to the reality, because they are coming from the digital side of life into reality, trying to set goals, but they're trying to set goals like in the digital life, which is not real. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very hard for them. What I wanted to say, I want to go back to feminism. You know, it's one of my favorite topics. If the mothers would go back, I'm not saying not working, because I
Mm-hmm.
am a mother that is working. I have my own business, I have jobs. So I'm working a lot, but I'm always, my priority is the kid, always. So this is what I'm saying. If the mother would go back into the feminine energy and try to feed their kids also with emotion, not only with food or fast food, because most of them are eating fast food.
Mm-hmm.
I think things will change. The mothers are not cooking anymore. It's only a few of them who are still the traditional mother who is waiting the kid from school with the soup or whatever, with a hot meal made homemade. They're buying these processed foods. Another factor that comes into the kid's life, an unhealthy diet. It's very important to have a healthy diet. So the
Mm-hmm.
mothers are not putting in the work for food, the work for the house. Most of them have someone, at least the ones that I'm talking, and I'm not an easy coach. I'm very straight with them, and they admit they're wrong, but at the same time, they don't seem to want to change something, because it would change their comfort, right? They have their
Mm-hmm.
own habits, their own comfort. They don't want to change too much, but they want a happy teenager. Why is he depressed? Why is she like this? They are so, I don't know, emotional. That's the main problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the mother would go back into her energy, feminine energy, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, of the family, talking to their kids, teaching them. If you think about religion, that's a good point there, where the mother was talking to the kids about, for example, the Ten Amendments, right? So it's a good start in life to know what's good, what's bad, what should be the principles in life,
Mm-hmm.
and what should guide you, right, in a better society. But
Like a
right now,
moral code of sorts.
yeah, no one is talking to them about ethics, about with a boy how they should treat a girl, with a girl how she should be with a man. They are not teaching them anything. So I think that everything starts from home and from the mother. The father usually is the one who's going out, right? Like we used to be in the archaic times where the man was going out hunting, the woman was staying in the cage and preparing food and taking care of the kids. It's the same. The humans are the same. We haven't changed.
Hmm. Absolutely. Like mothers are disconnected from their children in today's society, significantly more than even just 10, 20 years ago. And
Yeah.
it's a slippery slope to see them so disconnected. Um, there are some that are connected to their children more than others, right? The idea that the parent going to work, right? Obviously, they've created a society where parents have to go to work, both of them, right? And then you get
Mhm.
taxed for that, and then you spend more money, you get taxed. I mean, there's a reason for parents going to work, right? But now they've removed you from your kids, right? So they can indoctrinate your kids to get them to go to work and then pay the tax. So females have a very important role in nurturing children. Males educate with the hunting, the gathering, the defense, strong things that they now call toxic masculinity. Those are survival
Mhm.
instincts in
Yeah.
most cases, right? I mean, I'm not talking about being outwardly disrespectful towards women, cat calling, unnecessary like touching, groping, right? That's different. What I'm talking about is being strong in your convictions. You don't take crap. You defend your family. You are able to provide for your family, whether it's food, water, shelter, or whether it's going to work and it's monetary and it's the same, just through a different channel.
Hmm.
I think that's important. Feminism has went from equality to attacking masculinity. So I mean, and that could be, we could do another part two on feminism to for the podcast. We can do that, and we can talk about that because I do see that as a societal issue. Now, what we'll get
Hmm.
to is we've talked about the colleges, we talked about kids going to education not being taught by their parents, but what we'll now see is body image and identity formation being taught to the child from somebody else, right? So if I hypothetically send my kid to school, I'm busy working. I'm working two jobs, right? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I feed my kid every once in a while, and then I'm out or I'm asleep, and then I'm back to work, that very minimal interaction with my child. That leaves the door open for somebody else to spend time with my child.
Hmm.
Now, there is this big push for trans ideology or, gender talks at school, right? Okay, fine. Sex education should be, taught, but it also should be taught by the parents, right? Male,
Yeah.
female, right? The two genders, right? To allow somebody else to do that allows for predator behavior, right? We're seeing an uptick in children being targeted by males and females that are adults in schools for illicit purposes, unseen, like sexual purposes. And so if parents aren't talking to their kids about these things, teachers will. With body image, identity, gender identity, as I'll call it, because I see two genders, male, female, two sexes, male, female. Everything else falls under like an identity, like an internal monologue, a gender
Hmm.
identity thought process.
Yeah.
So these people are now talking to your kids about those things, right? I don't want some old 40-year-old man talking to my daughter about sex at school without me knowing about it. That's not like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
Hmm.
me and my ex-wife, that's our job to talk to our daughter about these things, right? But then now you're seeing laws being passed to keep those talks in the school, but hidden
Mm-hmm.
from parents.
Yeah.
So the identity of your child is being moved from the parents' capable hands to
Mm-hmm.
the government's or
Mm-hmm.
the ideologues, whoever's teaching the kid. It's moving to their purview to teach your kids, right? So now you can even be punished in some states here in the United States if you do not affirm your child's gender identity, uh, and you don't want them to have surgeries or what do they call those, hormone treatments or therapies, right? That's
Yeah.
crazy because
Yeah, it
they're
is.
still in the formative years. If kids, teenagers, right? If my kid can't smoke, drink, do drugs, drive a car, right? Can't vote, can't own a gun, but you want them to pay taxes and they can change their physical body, they can physically change their body or take chemicals that will forever alter their body. They can do those two things, but they can't do anything else because it's permanent and damaging to their development. That doesn't sit with me. That doesn't fly. I
I
went
think
on a tirade there. Hold on.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think it sits with anyone normal in their heads. This is not normal. And I don't understand why so many parents agree with this, or why the parents are at home right now and not on the streets protesting. That's something I don't understand. This silence, this um obeying, uh, probably, I'm not sure. And not to say that many, and I had some parents like that with a teenager, these parents that are somehow think that they're very fashionable if they say that their kid is trans, you know.
Or
They are more
non-binary or
focused
one
on,
of the other
yeah, yeah,
alphabet soups,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, they are very proud of it. They insist on their kids, are you sure that uh yeah,
But
it's
they won't let their
crazy.
kid get a tattoo, piercing, smoke,
Hmm.
do drugs,
Hmm.
drink alcohol. They can't drive a car. They got to be home by 10 o'clock. But for some reason, that those particular things are allowed to be, happen. You don't want your kid being sexually promiscuous, but they can change their bodies to fit
Yeah.
whatever they're thinking, right? But now remember what we talked about. We've talked about an increase in depression, an increase in bandwagon behavior with social media or mental health issues, right? So they're bandwagoning, they're joining to feel a part of something,
Yeah.
right? These kids may temporarily feel a part of something, but what happens 10 years down the road when the kid's like, okay, yeah, but I want to be a girl now, but I've, you know, changed my body forever to where that's nearly impossible to go back. I don't think it is impossible to go back. Let's
It
say
is.
a little boy is like, okay, yeah, yeah, my parents encouraged this. I did this because that's what I was feeling as I said something, and or my teacher encouraged this. Now I'm at college, or I want to start a family, but I can't do that anymore because I don't have the physical attributes to do that, right? Um, I think gender identity, you can think about whatever you want to think about yourself in your head, okay? Um, but there comes a point to where it becomes a mental health issue, gender
I agree.
dysphoria,
Yeah.
which is in the DSM-5, gender
Mhm.
dysphoria, uh, compared to something that should be encouraged. You don't encourage people to do drugs. You don't encourage them to experiment with sex or any of those other deviant sexual behaviors. You don't encourage them to get tattoos in their teenage years. You don't encourage them to um, stay out on their own cognizance for days at a time. But for some reason, this one particular thing is encouraged. And I'm not entirely sure why, but we've touched on it on another podcast where if we create a society that gender is fluid and changing, people permanently change their physical bodies. They're no longer procreating. They're no longer passing their genetic code forward, thus reducing the population. And if you've read anything into like certain agendas and certain policies that globalists or elites want, even the climate change community wants is a depopulation of the earth to save the planet for future people. If you look at that, I mean, it kind of is a puzzle piece that fits right there.
It's sick. I mean, the people that thought about only to think about it in the first place, you have to be very sick in your mind. You have to have a very sick. You have to be very pervert, because I've seen some cases with, for example, girls who wanted to become a boy. It was so easy. They just said maybe, like, and the teacher said, okay, I'm sending you to a clinic, and the doctor from the clinic said, okay, I'm giving you pills, and they start this treatment, and this one, she was 19 now, and she wanted to revert, and she couldn't anymore. It
Mhm.
was a disaster. Her life is a disaster right now. She won't be able to have kids. She won't be able to have a normal sexual life. She won't be able to live normally because those hormonal treatments or whatever they are giving to the kids destroyed her body.
Permanently changed her
Oh,
body during her formative years.
yeah.
That's absolutely insane that we're encouraging that. We don't encourage, I mean, most people, there are certain religions, there are certain people across the globe, certain people that really irritate me that encourage pedophilia, but 90% of the globe does not agree with pedophilia, right? But we're going to allow people to do this with our children, to encourage this. Sometimes parents are even encouraging these
Yeah.
behaviors, right? Specifically teenagers. We don't encourage our teenagers to go out there and have sex with grown men and grown women while they're in high school and in middle school. We don't do that. Why? But we're encouraging them to physically permanently change their body or take hormonal treatments to affirm a
Mm-hmm.
mental thought, a mental health issue. I mean, it just to me is mind blowing,
Yeah.
but it's also dragging our society down.
Sure. The body change, at least if you say, okay, I was a girl and I'm a boy. No, when they go into surgeries, those are failing. So they're not working. It's just not working. What's going on
Mhm.
is just not, it's like they want to destroy this generation of teenagers.
Mhm.
It's
I
very
mean, it would
dangerous what they're.
perfectly align with a depopulation agenda to
Mhm.
create a society where people aren't procreating.
Yeah,
Now,
and they're an army of slaves. I mean, when you're depressed, you cannot think too much. You just
when you're
exist.
depressed, when you're a
Yeah.
victim, when you've been constantly told that, like you are this and you are that, and the government can save you from this through laws and regulations, you're
Mhm.
essentially becoming a slave to the government that you're, at least in the United States, electing in power. I mean, it's absolutely insane to me the amount of things, and not just teenagers and children. It's actually insane to me the amount of power that our governments have across our globe over our autonomy, over our life, for us to even live and participate in society. The amount of rules and regulations. The United States was founded on freedom, but it looks like,
Mhm.
just like every other society across the globe, that we are being and regulated and put under law into oblivion.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I'm not say that we're going off topic, because teach your kids to think by themselves. It's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think by yourself and you take a look around and see who our leaders are, you're gonna get really scared. I don't want to go into details, but if you're watching some of the biggest leaders in the world, they are all even maybe perverts, or I'm not saying maybe, they are perverts.
Mm-hmm.
They have sick minds. They don't have a
Mm-hmm.
normal trajectory in life. They uh, some of them are really um this transgender part of this transgender community, but not the real one, because the real transgenders, they've been for real, they've been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. The other ones is just an impression that they have. right? And you're gonna see them being our leaders or being friends with Epstein or whatever
Yeah,
other this kind of
Epstein,
right?
crazy. Like that is allowed to happen and still is happening. Teenagers specifically were victims of
Yeah.
that, and there are leaders, clients that we don't even know yet because they don't want to
Mhm.
investigate it because they're too powerful. That should tell you that there's a problem with society already. We should be doing every effort we can to protect the children, teenagers, to grow up to be healthy human beings, to
Mhm.
encourage them with, some level of moral and ethics, to be functioning as human beings in society, not to pervert and deviate from those things to fulfill an agenda. It's absolutely
And
mind-boggling to me that this is where
yeah,
we're at.
please. I sometimes I'm watching the news and I'm just, for example, in I think in Netherlands they want to legalize pedophilia, and I was watching it. Why aren't people in the streets? How can you legalize something like this? So they're going after the kids, and that's horrible.
Mhm.
But I want to say it again. Everything starts from home. If us as parents are being next to our kids, trying to teach them to think for themselves, to have good principles in life, to have moral and ethics, I think the society it's gonna become a little bit better. Right now, the society is not in the good direction, and the teenagers are totally lost in this crazy world of information and transgenderism and extremism. Right now, it's
Mhm.
happening at least in Europe. A lot of extremists. So they are lost in this
I mean, but
society.
also native populations are being essentially replaced by migrant populations that are
Hmm.
producing children. These
Yeah,
migrant
yeah.
populations don't follow this gender identity, LGBT alphabet soup. And I don't say that disrespectfully. There's so many different ones that I don't know what all they are. But
Mhm.
if we're approaching 200 plus gender identities or genders, right? But then all of these people that are coming into the United States, into Europe, they are producing 5, 6, 7 children, and the native population is paying for that while
Mhm.
also deviating their children to this ideology. That's clear sign of replacement. You will be
Yeah.
the minority after time, and the elites that run the government, that run the planet, will rule over a slave population that they can regulate, fine, tax, control their movement, control what they eat. It's absolutely insane. If we continue this trajectory, the whole planet will be enslaved to very few people in very
Mhm.
short amount of time.
Very sick people in their heads.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, this is why I was talking at the beginning about us as parents having a responsibility regarding the society. We have to bring the kids into the society as good human beings, right? So we have this responsibility to raise our kids for real, not just 30 minutes a day or just sending them to uh, sports or whatever, just so we can get rid of them. And the mother should be back in the game.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody. I think we're going to do a part two on this one. So I think we've got more to talk about. So we'll do that later. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to check out our links and our website, and we'll see you in the next one.